What do you think the chances of Tinubu winning this election?
It is going to be the toughest battle that he will ever see.
Be Atiku Abubakar, Nasir El-Rufai, and other major political opposition.
It is a group of internally displaced politicians. This as to who will lead and then what exactly they were going to do.
And I'm going to work with this group. You are thinking of being a running mate to Atiku. Is that the case right now?
On Tuesday, July 2nd, 2025, in a packed hall in Abuja, some of Nigeria's most powerful political figures, comprising of Atiku, P2B, Nasir El-Rufai, and many others, stood side by side under the banner of a party most Nigerians had nearly forgotten, the African Democratic Congress, ADC. The ADC, a party founded in 2005, was never meant for this scale of politics. But the real question here is, who would be the flag bearer of this party? Is it Atiku, P2B, or El-Rufai? Another big question here is, what will be the fate of Labour Party at the end of the day? This was not a merger. It was a backdoor power transfer with no party congress, no grassroots consultation, and no input from existing ADC members. Mind you, this video is not about hope. It is not supporting anyone, but rather stating things as it is. It's about exposing the structure they are building, the interests they are protecting. And we'll be naming names, facts, timelines, betrayals, power shifts, court cases, and the silent war already brewing within this so-called new opposition. I must say, the July 2nd event was a careful stage show of power, timing, and symbolism. Held in Abuja, Nigeria's political capital, the meeting was filled with tension, familiarity, and strategic silence. No single political party was officially represented, yet every political party of the Fourth Republic was present in the room facially. From the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to All Progressive Congress, APC, to the Labour Party, LP. This coalition brought together figures who, up until recently, stood on opposition ends of Nigeria's most bitter political rivalries. Here is how it all played out. Former Senate President David Mark, a long-serving PDP statesman and ex-military officer, was officially unveiled as the interim chairman of the new ADC. Known for his years in the Senate and his loyalty to PDP interim structure, Mark's presence sent a strong message. This was a senior-level elite organization. Alongside him was Rauf Aregbesola, the former APC Minister of Interim and two-time Governor of Osun State, now named as the Interim National Secretary. His inclusion only symbolizes a clear intention that the coalition was trying to separate itself from APC political DNA, their stream of corruption. Rather, it was embracing it. The lines between former enemies had officially been erased, like the rivalry had been forgotten overnight. Now, what mattered was power to them. Seated close to the front was Atiku Abubakar, Nigeria's former vice president and Syria presidential contender, who contested under PDP in 2007, 2019, and 2023. His presence alone would have dominated headlines, but there was more. Sitting near him was P2B, the Labour Party 2023 presidential candidate, who just 1 year earlier was rallying millions of young Nigerians with promise of a new Nigeria. He sat a few feet from Rotimi Amaechi, the former APC minister and Tinubu's critic, as well as Nasir El-Rufai, the controversial former governor of Kaduna State, and once a staunch defender of President Buhari's northern agenda. Also in the room were Dino Malaye, a loud PDP figure and a staunch Atiku loyalist, one-time Speaker of House and a long-time PDP strategist. They represented multiple generations of power, multiple platforms of ambition, and a single calculated decision, which was to abandon their fractured parties and merge themselves into a fresh political brand without building one. The real shock wasn't just who was present, it was who wasn't speaking. See, none of existing ADC leaders addressed the press. Rauf, the man who chaired ADC for nearly 2 decades, had resigned days earlier along with the party's National Working Committee. The ADC's original members was absent. This wasn't a democratic transition, it was a silent, elite-approved acquisition. The party had effectively changed owners. News of the event immediately flooded every political conversation in the country, and why not? It trended on X, formerly Twitter, under hashtags like ADC 2027. opposition coalition and P2B joins Atiku. And as usual, Nigerians' opinions were divided. Some saw it as a checkmate that will eventually be a match for Tinubu in 2027 because it was a single, united opposition. Others saw it as a betrayal of every promise P2B made in 2023. The press coverage was intense but cautious. Most headlines referred to the event as coalition unveiling, but underneath the report was a deeper discomfort. This was not how coalitions are formed. This was how coups are executed, quietly, swiftly, without warning. In reaction to this, a Twitter handler said this: "If you choose to cast your vote for these individuals, regardless of their party affiliation, you reveal yourself to be willfully blind, deaf, and undeniably complicit in the very dysfunction that plagues this nation. Must I still remind you that these are the same corrupt politicians endlessly recycling themselves under a new banner? It's time to employ discernment, use your intellect." And if I may ask, is he wrong? Dumebi Kachikwu, the ADC 2023 presidential candidate, immediately rejected the takeover in explosive press statements released within hours of Abuja events. He declared, "This is fraud, this is hijack." Kachikwu, who had clashed with Rauf in the past over internal party democracy, confirmed that the entire maneuver was illegal and vowed to take legal actions. According to him, not only was there no major document filed, but the people now calling themselves ADC leaders had no constitutional mandate within the party. He insisted that this was not a coalition but elite shortcuts to avoid the rigorous process of party formation, registration, and INEC scrutiny. He wasn't wrong, and why do I say so? Under Nigerian law, a political merger or change of leadership must be reported and registered with INEC, accompanied by constitutional amendments and ratified minutes of Congress. None of that happened. Instead, what occurred was a swift administration decapitation, removing the head of the party and replacing it with men from outside the structure, without consent from within. This is what makes the situation not only controversial, but potentially illegal. This entire situation reveals something deeper. What we are witnessing is not a national opposition movement being built with public participation, but a hostile elite consolidation. It wasn't founded on ideology or unity or reform. It was a chess move, orchestrated quietly, like we said earlier, to give well-known political veterans a new platform with a new name, without going through the hard work of party formation or policy development. If this coalition truly believed in a new beginning, they would have created one. They have the access, they have the national visibility. But instead of building, they borrowed a party with an unsettled legal past, stripped its own leadership, and began branding it as a future of Nigerians' opposition. The brutal question no one wants to answer, not the ones politicians want to ask, but the ones ordinary Nigerians are thinking among themselves, especially the young people who carried the 2023 election on their backs. Not the ones politicians want to ask, but the ones ordinary Nigerians are thinking among themselves, especially the young people who carried the 2023 election on their backs only to be sidelined in the very next cycle. A handler on X known as Aisha Yesufu had this to say. In her words, she said, "Their coalition, women leader and youth leader position cannot be what is reserved for women and youth. Women and youth must be in the midst of decision making and not as afterthought in form of tokenism. This is time for the numbers. You have to be heard, loud and clear. Join and be part of the leadership. Be part of the delegates and be part of floor members. Overwhelm for good. Bring ideas from out of the box." Haven't heard what she said? Did you get the message? Did you get what she has to say? For a country where over 60% of the population is under 30, the absence of youth representation in coalition that claims to offer national salvation is not a joke. Isn't that a warning? Is it truly about a new Nigeria, or is it about the old one repainting its face? Let's call it what it is. Atiku has lost 6 presidential attempts. P2B lost in 2023 after claiming he would usher a new political structure. Rotimi Amaechi was rejected in the APC presidential primaries. Nasir El-Rufai was sidelined after Buhari's exit. Each of them carries the weight of their political history and personal ambition, not a public mandate. They are uniting because they share a common problem, and that is their political irrelevance under the current APC regime. Hence, ADC is not a national movement for people. It is a political rehabilitation center for veterans who don't want to retire. The most confusing and painful question sits on P2B's shoulder. Is Obi just desperate for another chance, or does he genuinely believe this is right? In 2023, Obi positioned himself as anti-establishment outsider. He gained unprecedented youth support, millions of organic votes, and global attention. Not because he was perfect, but because he was not them. He was not Atiku, he was not Tinubu, he was not Amaechi, he was not El-Rufai. He ran against the same system he is now aligning with. So what actually changed? Did the court convince him there is no victory without a coalition? Did the realities of Nigerian power structure force him to surrender? Or did the man who preached political integrity decided that power, like any kind of power, is better than staying principled on the sidelines? And if I may say, if this coalition fails, Obi doesn't just lose another election, he loses a trust of millions who believed in his 2023 campaign as once in a generation opportunity for clean politics. And finally, will this structure truly serve the Nigerian people, or will it recycle power among the same elite class? So far, there is no manifesto, no people-driven charter, no town hall meetings, no public consultation, no ideological framework for what is the coalition actually stands for, beyond defeating Tinubu. What do they believe in? What is their economic vision? Who are their policy experts? Who is going to be the flag bearer? Which is the main question. And how will they handle security different from Buhari and Tinubu? What will they do about corruption, job creation, police reform, education, energy, and restructuring? Talking on this, the real force the ADC-led opposition coalition is fighting isn't just the APC, it's Bola Tinubu himself. Since his rise in Lagos governorship in 1999, Tinubu has built not just political career, but an entrenched system of control, one that has now expanded to the federal level and dominates nearly every institution critical to Nigerian democracy. This isn't merely about his presidency. Tinubu represents decades of old political machine that has grown from Lagos into a national empire. The APC, under his influence, has gone beyond being a party. It is now a deeply embedded power structure. The security sector is not left out. Military and police force showed visible bias during the 2023 election, especially in opposition territories, further indicating where their loyalty lies. Even the media landscape has changed. You agree that investigative reports that once questioned Tinubu's past have grown silent, and major outlets tread carefully around his administration. What's more concerning is that Tinubu has taken same templates he used to dominate Lagos through loyalty-driven appointments, godfather politics, media manipulations, and dynastic positioning, and also he has applied it in the national level. The question now is that if this coalition can stop his system, do they have what it takes? Because Tinubu empire isn't built for short-term election, it's built to withstand them in the long run. This isn't just about 2027. It's a battle against a political model that has adapted to every form of opposition. And unless the coalition can convincingly prove that it's fundamentally different from the system it seeks to replace, it may not only lose, it might crumble under the weight of its own contradictions. Nigeria does not need another alliance of convenience. It needs conviction. The country is broken. People are suffering. The naira is crashing. Unemployment is rising. Food prices are unbearable. Insecurity remains unchecked. Last thing Nigeria needs is a grand stage where yesterday's political gather to pretend they have changed simply because they switched on jerseys. So before anyone calls this coalition a hope, they must first prove that isn't a coalition of survival for themselves but for the country. So tell me, do you think the ADC will unseat Tinubu come 2027 election? Or what if Tinubu takes a good turn to start being a good president just before the 2027 election? If you love the truth and want to be part of the truth, don't forget to like and share.